What would it be like to be a government lawyer? Somebody who's representing their community on issues that matter. Well, that's exactly what I have in store for you today. I've got this great guest. Her name is Katherine, or Kat Reilly, and she has a wealth of experience as a litigator. She spent time in the private sector working on cases in the multi-million-dollar range, as well as what I just mentioned, working for the government, and in this case, the province of British Columbia's Ministry of Attorney General. Now, in this short episode, we're going to get into a day in the life of this type of work. We're also going to hear from Katherine in terms of what she believes it takes to succeed. Now, I do want to tell you that, hey, there's a lot more to this conversation that you can check out in the audio version. You can find that wherever you access your podcast. Just do that search for Life as a ... All right, well, I think it's about time to get started, so why don't we?
Probably looking at a typical week is a bit more representative because the days, and this is one of the great parts of the job actually, is that the days can be quite varied. So like today I'm coming you from, I'm having a work from home day. I've mainly been on, meetings and phone calls today. I'm doing some writing. There's a lot of writing, there's a lot of reading, and there's a fair amount of talking, I would say, in this job. When you're more junior in the profession, you do more of the reading and research and that sort of thing. And I say the more senior you get, you probably do more of the talking and, to the court and to your clients and, that sort of thing. So a typical day could involve for me, meetings with colleagues who are working with me on a file, like team members who are supporting me on the file. I'm not always the most senior, like team lead on a file, but typically am at this stage of my career. It will also be meetings with clients, updating them, getting information from them, figuring out what we need to do, what are their needs and goals, and how does that impact the steps that I need to take as their representative on a particular piece of litigation, emailing with or writing to or on the phone with opposing counsel, because that's who you're dealing with. And unless it's a really, really, really big file that you've got lots of files on the go. So you're dealing with a lot of different matters. So it's like, I have to call opposing counsel on that file and I have to get back to the client because they had a question about that. And so-and-so is waiting to hear from me on this other thing. So it's a lot of sort of bouncing between and really multitasking and kind of balancing a lot of competing demands and being able to prioritize really what is the most significant right now. What do I need to devote my attention to? And then because there will also be days and weeks where it's like, well, I'm in court right now, and that takes all of my attention when I'm in court, especially running a trial where it's like you really need to be firing on all cylinders when you're in trial. It's like the big game because you've got live witnesses who are going to say things you didn't expect. You've got the judge, you've got, all these various pieces, and it can be very all-consuming. So having the work from home days and the office days where you're writing a legal argument or strategizing with a legal argument or, chatting with your colleagues, trying to figure your way through something, for me provides a really nice balance. Because there are some fields of law where you're only in your office ever. And there's some fields of law like criminal law where you're basically always in court. And for me, this works. Like it's kind of a nice balance. I get to do both. So every week probably looks a bit different, but it's usually some combination of all those things.
Just as a refresher for listeners, you started in private practice at a national firm in 2006 as an articled student, progressed to an associate position, and then became partner in 2014. And to me, that strikes me as like incredibly quick rise. And I have these like media infused sort of ideas or depictions in my head of what this looked like, but I'm sure there's obviously a lot more to that. But all the same, maybe you could share a little bit what has gone into your success or what went into your success at that time in particular.
Yeah, for sure. It was a sort of, I suppose, a relatively quick rise, although certainly not the quickest. I saw other people.
Really?
There's some people who were on the super, super fast track. So I think a lot of lawyers are by nature very competitive and have that streak in them. So when you there's a goal that's being presented to you as like, this is the next level you can attain. And it comes with, financial benefits and, in reality, what I realized part of what I realized is that it never stops. There never stops being a number of hoops to jump through. There's always a next hoop to jump through. Um, so you don't really sort of ever make it to the top without sort of constantly,
Yeah.
actively doing a lot of work to stay, to maintain that level. So I think, it was definitely a combination of having that sort of internal drive for sure,
Mhm.
being willing to put in the hard work and the long hours. Um, and I will say that it's not, I certainly wouldn't want anyone to leave this episode, thinking like, well, I just have to go and work my butt off and then I'll do it, because and I suffered some health consequences as a result, and I saw other people do the
Mhm.
same. So it's not like that's the only way to do it or the best way to do it, but it certainly is. The profession certainly rewards people who work very, very hard and very long
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
It's kind of set up. The business of law part is. So private practice is unique in that sense because it is a business and you are in, a client service industry. And so if you are quick on your emails and responsive to clients and doing good work,
Mhm.
all of those things, that is how you can get ahead and rise up in that, certainly in that aspect of the profession in particular. So less so with the government work, of course.
Right, right. I'd imagine as well, like what we let off when this notion of being strategic, that strategic nature of it as well, and plotting your course through it. I'm
Mhm.
sure that plays a big part. Also, the relationships you're developing and building and maintaining and all of that stuff, I'm sure plays into this as well.
It does. That's actually a really good point, because one thing I omitted to mention was that, having those relationships and um, building relationships with the people that you work with to like sort of get the experience that you want and that you'll need to progress. That's an important aspect, because if you don't have those relationships with people in your office and you aren't getting the really good files, or
Yeah.
the high billing files or the high profile matters, then you're not necessarily going to progress as quickly.
Hmm.
Um, Doing that in a way where you can sort of maintain your own personal integrity, I think, is important too.
Hmm.
um, and then having those relationships, because there are, the saying goes, probably in other professions, not just law, but every decision that's ultimately made about you will be made without you at the table.
Yeah.
So having people who are willing to speak up on your behalf and who can say like, Catherine's done great work for me. Like, I've seen her work. I've seen this, like, clients feel like this about her. I think we should
Yeah.
be investing in her. We should be promoting her. We should be doing this.
Yeah.
So, relationship building, and and it is a strategic aspect too, but I tried to think of it as more than just that, really, because it's how you get sort of enjoyment and richness out of the job, really, as well. If you're, as long as you're not a sociopath, if you want to be there and you like people and you like who you work with, then you're doing it, not just for the strategic reasons, but obviously it does factor in for sure.
All right, well, I think it's about time to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it, but I do encourage you to check out the full-length audio version. There we dive into several more topics, and one in particular that you might find useful, in which Kat is comparing the work for big private law firms as opposed to working for the government. Plus, we get into other topics such as how technology is shifting and changing things around. We also get into the weeds in terms of Kat's work itself, leading up the Injunctions Group for the government. So there's a lot more contained within the audio version. You can find that, once again, wherever you access your podcast. Just do that search for Life as a ... And really quickly here, I would absolutely love that like or subscribe. It really does help grow out this channel, and it lets this YouTube algorithm know that this content does matter. Anyway, I will have another profession covered, another video coming your way, so don't miss it. All right, we'll see you then.